You are not strong, not as you think. You have been sold a lie wrapped in pretty words. You have been made to believe that weakness is a virtue, that resignation is nobility, that suffering is a path to heaven, and you have bought it without protest. It is not your fault. Since you were born, you were trained to be weak, to bow your head, to feel guilty for your own power. You are made to believe that strength is arrogance and humility is worthy of admiration. But the truth is different. The truth hurts. The truth is that you have been programmed to fail, and the worst of all is that you don't even see it. Look at yourself closely. How many times have you hidden what you really think for fear of offending? How many times have you lowered your gaze before someone who didn't deserve it? How many times have you pretended that you didn't care when inside you were consumed? You are not strong. You have become a prisoner of your own chains. But there is something worse than weakness: the lie. You have lied to yourself so many times that you no longer distinguish reality, cowardice disguised as prudence, fear dressed as morality, submission wrapped in empathy. But it's not your fault. You were educated like that. You were taught to feel guilty for wanting more, to be ashamed of your instincts, to castrate your own will in the name of others. You were taught that sacrifice is noble, that compassion is sacred, that success is dangerous, that wanting more is selfishness, that fighting for your own greatness is a sin, that being different is a threat. Do you know what Nietzsche would say about you? He would say that you are a slave to a morality that does not belong to you, to a system that wants you docile, to a society that hates those who shine too much. Because if you shine, you force them to see their own mediocrity, and that terrifies them. The morality of slaves. That's what Nietzsche called it. A code of values created by the weak to feel superior to the strong. Don't you see it? It's a defense mechanism. Resentment turned into virtue. Contempt disguised as kindness. It is the great inversion of values. What was once admired is now condemned. What was once despicable is now venerated. Strength, ambition, pride, demonized. Submission, passivity, renunciation, exalted. And you, without realizing it, have fallen into the trap. You believe that compassion is kindness, but in reality, it is a tool of control. You believe that humility is a virtue, but in reality, it is a form of submission. You believe that resignation is acceptance, but in reality, it is cowardice. And the worst thing is that they have convinced you that all this is for your own good, that being strong is being cruel, that being ambitious is being greedy, that being free is being dangerous. And so they have turned you into what you are, a prisoner of your own mind, a man who drowns in his own morality, a being who denies his own nature. But there is a way out, and it is not the one they have told you. Nietzsche was not talking about physical strength. He was not talking about imposing oneself on others. He was talking about something much more powerful: the ability to face life without masks, without excuses, without lies. The ability to look in the mirror and say, "This is what I am," with my lights and shadows. Because true strength is not in dominating others, but in not letting yourself be dominated by your own chains. It is not in impressing, but in being unstoppable. It is not in fitting in, but in destroying what prevents you from moving forward. Strength is brutality with oneself. It is not deceiving oneself. It is not hiding behind pretty words. It is accepting pain, loneliness, uncertainty, and moving forward anyway. It is not needing approval. It is not seeking compassion. It is not begging for love. It is looking at oneself with such brutal honesty that it would scare anyone. And that, my friend, is the problem. People don't want the truth. They prefer to live in their bubble of victimhood and self-deception. They prefer the comfort of weakness to the weight of responsibility. Because being strong is difficult. It requires pain. It requires sacrifice. It requires tearing off your skin and rebuilding yourself from scratch. It requires abandoning excuses, uses, pretexts, narratives in which you hide, and most are not willing to do it. They prefer to blame the world, society, the system. They prefer resentment to responsibility. They prefer to be victims rather than creators. Because being a creator implies risk. It implies betting on oneself. It implies jumping without a net, and that is scary. But if you have come this far, if these words resonate within you, it is because there is something in you that resists dying, something that has not yet been fully domesticated, something that knows there is more, that has not been completely defeated by mediocrity. And that something is your will to power. It is your right to be great. It is your right to rewrite history, not the history of the world, yours. Because that is the only one that matters. But time is running out, not for the world, but for you. Every day you spend justifying your weakness, every day you spend hiding from your own power, is a day that will never return. It is a day that brings you closer into irrelevance, to nothingness. Because life does not wait. Either you take what is yours, or someone else will. Either you destroy yourself to be reborn stronger, or the world will destroy you without mercy. There is no middle ground. There are no happy endings for those who wait. So choose. You can continue to be a slave to the morality of the weak. Continue justifying your mediocrity. Continue feeding the cycle of self-deception in which you live. Or you can get up, break with everything that binds you, and claim what was always yours. The decision is yours. But remember this, no one is going to save you. No one will come to rescue you. Either you save yourself, or you die like the rest. Welcome to the truth. And here comes the most dangerous thing of all. Not only have they taught you to be weak, not only have they shaped your mind to reject your own strength, they have done something even worse. They have trained you to sabotage those who try to break free. Look at it closely. What happens when someone decides to break the mold? What happens when someone rejects mediocrity and dares to build their own destiny? They become an enemy, a threat, a target, and not because they harm others, but because their mere existence is an unbearable reminder for those who have decided to resign themselves. When a person gets up and says, "I'm not going to play by your rules, I'm not going to crawl, I'm not going to ask permission," then the crowd turns against them. They cannot allow it. Because if only one manages to escape, if only one shows that there is another way, then everyone else is left without excuses. They are left naked before the truth, that their weakness is not a destiny, but a choice, and they cannot tolerate that. That is why they try to destroy those who dare to challenge the system. They do it in many ways, sometimes with mockery, others with contempt, with insults, with criticism, with accusations of arrogance or cruelty. And if all that fails, they resort to the most cowardly strategy of all. They try to drag you back. They try to make you doubt, to question yourself, to return to the safe zone where they feel comfortable. Because the herd doesn't tolerate the sheep that becomes a wolf. You have seen it before. Perhaps you have lived it. Perhaps at some point you tried to do something great, something different, something that escaped the mediocrity in which most drown. And instead of support, you found resistance. They told you that you were crazy, that it was not realistic, that you were being selfish, that who did you think you were to try something like that? And here is the dirty trick. They never told you that resistance was not because they loved you or wanted to protect you. No, it was because if you managed to get out, if you showed that there was another way, then they would have to face the most terrifying question of all. If he can, why can't I? And the answer destroys them. Because the answer is that they could. They always could. They just didn't want to pay the price. But you can. And you do want to. And here is the key. If you really want to get out, if you really want to transcend, you have to accept a brutal truth. You are going to be alone for a while at least. Because those who have not awakened cannot walk by your side. Because they will not understand your vision. Because they will prefer to attack you rather than accept that perhaps they have lived deceived all their lives. This is what Nietzsche called the path of the Übermensch. It is not a destination. It is a process. It is a constant transformation, an endless evolution. It is not about reaching a point and saying, I made it. No. It is about always walking, about destroying and rebuilding oneself again and again, about never accepting limits imposed by others. And that path is lonely, not because you should be alone forever, but because to find your own, you must first become someone worthy of being found. Do you want to know who you really are? Look at who you spend your time with. Who surrounds you? Are they people who push you, who challenge you, who force you to be better? Or are they people who keep you in the same place, who feel threatened when you try to grow, who fill you with doubts and excuses? You cannot build greatness in an environment of mediocrity. If your circle doesn't challenge you, it's not a circle. It's a cage. And here is the hard part. You have to be willing to leave it all behind. People, ideas, beliefs, habits. Everything that does not contribute to your transformation, everything that does not make you stronger, has to die. True strength is not just enduring pain. It is learning to let go of what binds you. It is being ruthless with what keeps you weak. It is learning to kill parts of yourself that no longer serve you, without pity, without nostalgia. Because the truth is this: the person you are now cannot take you where you want to be. You have to change. You have to destroy yourself. And then you have to be reborn. Reborn. That is the key word. But it is not a comfortable rebirth. It is not the fantasy of a second chance without consequences. No. It is a violent rebirth. Brutal. Like skin tearing off. Like a metamorphosis that hurts so much that at times you want to give up. Because no one tells you this. True change is painful. It hurts because it forces you to face who you are right now. And who you are now, who you have been until today, is the result of years. Years of conditioning, of fear, of lies that you have accepted as truths. How many times have you said that you are like this just to justify your inaction? How many times have you told yourself the story that you can't? That it's too late, that the world is unfair, and therefore there's no point in trying. Do you know what is really unfair? That deep down in your mind, In that place, you rarely dare to look. You know you could be more. That is the truth you try to bury. That you could be stronger, smarter, freer. That you could take control of your life instead of being dragged by it. But you don't. Because to achieve it, you would have to leave behind the version of yourself that has been accepted by others. And here comes the biggest problem of all. People don't change because they are afraid of being alone. That is the real reason. It is not the effort. It is not the sacrifice. It is not the difficulty of the road. It is the fear of being rejected. When you start to change, when you start to become a more powerful version of yourself, the world doesn't applaud you at first. It attacks you because your change is a threat. Your transformation is an affront against everything people have believed for years. And when they see you move forward, when they see you overcome what they have accepted as normal, their natural reaction is not to be inspired. It is to resent. They will look at you with disdain. They will tell you that you are obsessed, that you have changed, that you are no longer the same, as if that were a bad thing. And you know what? They are right. You are no longer the same, and you should never want to be. Evolution is not optional. It is law. Life itself is constant change, perpetual transformation. What does not change stagnates, and what stagnates dies. Do you want an example? Look at it in nature. An animal that stops moving is an animal that becomes prey. A river that stops flowing becomes a puddle of rotten water. The same goes for the mind. The same goes for life. But here is the trap. Since you were a child, you have been told that changing is dangerous, that you must find who you are and stay there as if identity were something fixed, immutable, engraved in stone. Listen, identity is not a destination. It is a path. You are not a finished product. You never will be. And the sooner you understand this, the sooner you will start to move for real. Nietzsche made it clear. Become who you are, not who you were, not who they expect you to be, who you really can be. And that means that every day you must kill the version of yourself that no longer serves you. It means that you have to leave behind the beliefs that have been imposed on you, the limits that you have accepted without question, the invisible chains that have kept you in the same place for years. Because the reality is this: most people never change because they never dare to question what they have been. They prefer to live in the comfort of a prefabricated identity, an identity that was given to them by their parents, by their environment, by society. And so they spend their lives repeating the same stories, the same patterns, the same failures, as if they were incapable of writing a different chapter. But you are not the majority. If you have come this far, if these words resonate within you, it is because there is something in you that still resists dying in mediocrity. And here is the last truth you need to understand. You have to lose yourself to find yourself. You have to destroy everything you thought you were. All the ideas that have kept you tied down. All the excuses you have used as a shield. You have to throw yourself into the void, without guarantees, without certainties, without a map that tells you how to return. Because it's not about going back. It's about going forward without looking back. And when they ask you what happened to you, why you are no longer the same, why you no longer play by the same rules as always, just smile. Because they will never understand what it means to be reborn. And here you are, at the edge of the abyss. You have come to this point. You have felt every word like a blow, because deep down, You know it is true. And now you face the final decision. Continue as before or jump. But I warn you of something. If you decide to continue as before, if you decide to turn off this video and return to the comfort of your routine, pretending that none of this has affected you, you will be making the worst mistake of your life. Because now you know. Now you can't deceive yourself. The words you have just heard have planted a seed inside you. You can try to ignore it. You can try to drown it with distractions. But sooner or later, it will come back to you. Because that's how the truth works. Once you see it, you can never, never go back to being blind. And then, every time you hold back out of fear, every time you accept less than you deserve, every time you keep quiet when you want to scream, you will remember this. You will remember that you could have changed. You will remember that you could have been more. And that is the worst punishment, not failure, but the certainty that you could have been great and you weren't. Because in the end, life is not measured by the successes you accumulated, nor by the failures you overcame. It is measured by the difference between what you could have been and what you really were. The question is simple. How much of yourself are you going to waste? Are you going to continue carrying the chains that others put on you? Are you going to continue justifying your weakness with well-decorated excuses? Are you going to continue waiting for the world to give you permission to be who you really are? Or are you going to take control of your story? Are you going to break with everything that has kept you tied down? Are you going to decide once and for all to be the protagonist of your own life? I don't want you to answer now. I don't want you to say yes just because it sounds good. It is useless for you to deceive yourself. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to imagine the best version of yourself, the version that is not afraid, the version that does not stop, the version that does not apologize for being great. And now look at yourself today. If that version of you saw you, would it admire you or despise you? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, then you know what you have to do. Now it's your turn. Leave me a comment with the phrase, "I'm ready to be reborn." Not for me, for you. So that every time you come back to this video, you remember the exact moment when you decided that you were no longer going to be the same. And if this message has shaken you, if it has stirred something inside you, then subscribe. Because here, we don't speak for the herd. We speak for those who are ready to awaken. If you're still here, it's because you're looking for something more. Subscribe to Psyche Nomad if you're ready to confront the truth and become who you are. See you in the next video. If you still have the courage to keep seeing the truth.